medals. That's about all you get when you go to war for Halliburton and Blackwater. You get a lot of medals. Where you might be losing a couple of limbs, an eye or two, a few ears, and other scratches and abrasions, and you won't get your pension, and you will be treated like a dog because that's how they treat returned soldiers. But hey, the medals, they look good on that wall. And folks, please just Google the lyrics to Bob Brown, Went Off to War by Bob Dylan. Hats off to Bob Dylan, please, because going off to war is just a crock of shit. You're not defending anything. Soldiers are sold out thugs. They're not warriors. Once upon a time, you would have a militia and you would have decent, honest folk that would have to defend and protect. And that is the only time that the heavens would allow you to be a warrior. But let's be warriors of truth, folks, because these wars that are going on by these corporate dictators and thugs have seen the end of their road. And, of course, these corporations have wreaked havoc on Indigenous people, and that's the subject of today. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ronald onto the show. Ronald, are you there?
I'm here.
Thanks, brother. Do you mind if is it Ronald? Is that good for you?
You can call me Ron. My real name is Ronald Dwayne Slusher Sr.
Yeah, I thought I got Slusher right before.
Yeah,
hey.
It was, the family name was Slusher, which was German. And it just, whatever it was, they couldn't spell it, so it just got shortened up. So, Anyway, that's where that's from.
Exactly. And thanks for joining us. We did have a problem. We've had this problem before too, by the way, Ronald, where the station has sent 3 or 4 invitations, but they don't actually get to the guests. So I'm pretty familiar with this. It happens. It does happen. So forgive us, and for the listeners, my apologies. But we're glad to have you. I've watched many of your videos. You send them to me. You talk to me on Skype quite a lot. I've seen Akima, the Hopi expert, I guess you could call him, talking about the petroglyphs and all of that wonderful, fascinating stuff. Please, can you share with us what you know about the Hopis? I guess we're going to be talking about the Hopis. Would that be right?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Hopis. And I got to call into Akima. Maybe we can get a little lucky. He can call me on my other line. So, what kind of was is I started getting into the Hopis about 15, 20 years ago. Kind of a long story short, I had found a meteor, a stone, and I had turned down a lot of money for it, and I got connected to the Hopis. I took a picture. It's a long, long story, but what I did was I took a picture of the stone before I buried it, and I took it up to all the little Hopi mesas and the little villages, and went around to showing it to everybody and see if the stone meant anything to them, because I thought maybe it was theirs, because I had found it by Barry Goldwater's home in Paradise Valley, Arizona. And anyway, I ended up turning him down $1 million for it. So anyway, I took the picture of the stone and started going up to the mesas, because Barry Goldwater had a connection with the Hopi. And he did a lot of bad things to him. And he ran for president, in fact. So anyway, took a picture of the stone, started going up to all the little villages on the mesas on the Hopi reservation, asking anybody if the stone meant anything to them. Kept getting no. The last mesa we went to was Third Mesa, Old Arabian. There was 2 old Hopi Kachina carvers sitting there carving Kachinas. In fact, I own one of the Kachinas he was carving, and I showed them a picture of it, and they just said, come back in 3 hours. So me and another friend, we went and rode around the mesas some more and other villages and showed this picture of the stone. And in fact, it's on my blog. My blog is RD47Art. I just Google it, and there's a picture of the stone on my blog. But so what happened was we came back in 3 hours. Now, Old Arabi is the birthplace of the Hopi, and the Hopi are the oldest people of North and South America. Their petroglyphs go from Alaska to the tip of South America. They were the original Native Americans of America. Every Native American is Hopi. And Old Oribe would be their Jerusalem. So there's big significance here. So anyway, these guys, I've told the story so many times, it's still hard to tell. So they said, come on, we came back in 3 hours. And one of the two guys the Kachina carver's great-great-grandfather was chief of Old Oribe, and his name was Patrick Lanza. And they said, we're going to show you something. So they took me a walk down to the face of Old Oribe, which they do live on the mesas up there. And when you get to the face where the cliffs start, you look south and you see San Francisco Peaks, which is above Flagstaff, Arizona, and that's the Hopis where the Hopi Kachinas live. And then anyway, they took me down and started showing me the petroglyphs. But at the very top of the petroglyph, there was a petroglyph of the stone. And then they said there's your stone. I thought they were going to say it's our stone, and I was going to give it to them. But anyway, they said it was theirs, and they took me around and started showing me all the petroglyphs and everything like that. Took me all around the village. Took me to the ruins of I think it was the Catholics that were the ones, but they made the Hopis build a church. And the timbers had to come from long away because the land up there is just desolate and flat. I mean, just got not ponderosa pines, but scrub pines, little round pine trees, juniper pines. There you go. So all the logs for this place would have had to have been built in. Well, they got it built that night. Lightning struck and burned it to the ground. So they took me around all of that stuff, and we went back up to their little kiva where we first met him, and they said to me, you can come live with us, he can never come back. So that's how it all started about, 18, 19, 20 years ago. And then I went up and started spending lots of time with the Hopis. And it's just continued over the years. And even though I'm white and everything, I'm just quite well accepted by everybody. They all feel comfortable around me, and I feel comfortable around them.
Yeah, I've noticed that in your videos. They love you.
Yeah, they do. Of course, they really respect me.
Well, it's mutual. You can see it.
Yeah, it is. You know, somebody once asked me why that was, and I said, well, maybe I created the Hopi. So, because it gets to be really involved. But anyway, so that's how you kind of know how I got to be with the Hopis and all that. And so I've just been kicking around up there and doing things. And I learned a lot about how the world really is from the Hopis. And the Hopis, you know, the Hopis and the aliens are connected. That's what it's all about. And then the Hopis knew that their time would come, and their time has come, and they had it right on the spot. And the aliens, or whatever you want to call them, because the word alien just means you don't know what it is anyway.
Exactly. I'd be calling them extraterrestrials.
Yeah,
really,
well, you know, they call them shapeshifters. Isn't it interesting that the Hopis had a word for shapeshifter? Now, why would anybody have that thousands of years ago?
Exactly, and so do the Africans. All the African tribes.
Oh yeah, especially the Mali tribe that's going. Unfortunately, they're at war right now with the French, but. The Apaches that live here in Arizona, the crown dancers, I think I've seen you some of my videos of the crown dancers, and they do the same dance as the Mali tribe in Africa does. It's identical. If you read the comments on my videos, you see all the people that talk about that, you know, made a comparison. And here they were Apache Indians, which originally which are kind of like the Navajo, they're the same. And they came from Canada. So you can see, and like the Hopi stuff is all the Aborigines and the Hopis. You're in Australia, are totally in common. They have so much in common. It's unbelievable.
Well, that Apache dance that you sent me the other day, I've seen the Aboriginals do something like that. I've seen many corroborees of the Aboriginals. When we were in school, they used to come and dance for us, and of course, how disgusting that is. You know, they come to schools to dance like, you know, captives.
Yeah. I call that some things never change, because the crap still goes on now. you know.
Exactly.
The super wealthy white people that own a museum in downtown Phoenix called the Herd Museum still send buses up and bring the Hopi down and make money off them, and they sell to people their kachinas and their artwork and stuff, right?
Exactly.
And I go down there and I just, 200 years later, ain't nothing changed.
No, they still like to drag them in like circus animals. Oh, look how they dance.
Santos,
they're so proud of the fact that they...
but you're exactly right. That, like circus act. And the sad part is the Hopis don't know they're part of a circus act.
Well, I think they do. It's just that they've got such good hearts, and they are so more advanced than these imbeciles that have, imprisoned them and killed them. And
just so you know, Santos, the Hopi were never messed with. That's the amazing thing about the Hopis. Even the Hopis, whoever we want to call it, the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, I call it the European invasion, right? Every tribe in North America was genocide and moved around, and all of them have this march to death stories, but the Hopis are where they have been for thousands of years. They would not mess with the Hopi, and I just knew it was the alien thing with the Hopis. Did you know the interesting thing about the Hopis is that the Spaniards found them. When they hit Mexico first, right? The Spaniards found the Hopis. And the Spaniards loved them, and the Hopis taught the Spaniards how to find the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Because the Hopis, they own this place from from Arctica to Antarctica on this side of the ocean at one time. And there's proof everywhere of this because of their petroglyphs. They're unique petroglyphs. And when you look at my videos of their petroglyphs, they're not like petroglyphs you see other places. They're not just all the same. They're different.
Yeah, look, for the listeners, please, can you give the handle of your YouTube page where they can see these amazing petroglyphs? You just have to go to the search box and type in RD47 blog, because I'm a writer, too. I do a blog every week. So it's kind of all tied in together. So just go to the search box, type in RD47. I just posted my 318th video, mainly Native American, but anything that interests me. I even recorded a protest, and then even did a Occupy Phoenix thing. So whatever interests me, the gods have always made sure I've had the money and the time. So I just share my stuff with everybody. I don't make no money on it. I will not let anybody attach ads to it. So it's good stuff. And they're all just, and people, you'll feel like you're on my shoulder. Yeah, lovely. And look, how about we do a little tour of some of those petroglyphs? Because I remember the one story where Akima is talking about, the events of the prophecies and the events of the last recent, say, 100 years, and also beyond 2012. That'd be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, we can get in. Yeah, you can just go forever with the Hopis, and it is so interesting how I ended up here. It was just meant to be, I guess. I have just kind of become their almost their spokesman in many, many ways. So it's just been interesting.
Good on you, Ronald. They would.
It all happened. Yeah. Like I said, I told you before when we first started talking about getting Akima on. We'll have them on together here soon and get it worked out. And Akima asked me to make him famous because I'd met him at the Herd Museum in northern Arizona. Because Akima's a really great artist. His paintings, he always wins #1 in the Southwest for his weavings, his mainly sashes, and that these are ceremonial sashes, and the Hopis have lost their way so bad. He's one of the last people still making these sashes. So it kind of has a built-in audience, because if you get married or something, if you're a Hopi and you get married, you got to have that sash, and for all kinds of ceremonies, and Akima's up there carrying on the tradition. And he lives one of the oldest. In fact, Kiva is over 100 years old. And it's a new one up there. A lot of the places are a lot older now, but there was a big fight and they divided on Old Arriby. So Yeah, we can go wherever you want, Santos. That's for sure.
Beautiful. Well, let's hope after the break we can get Akima on too. Otherwise, I suppose you can explain as much as you know about them. You've been taught by Akima yourself too, haven't you?
Well, the thing is, I've been taught by all of them up there. And that's an interesting thing about it, is that even when I'm with Akima, I feel like I know more. See, what happens is they're clannish.
Anyway, okay. So, were we able to get Akima?
I just talked to Akima, and this is late for him.
Yeah, no worries, no problem at all.
Let's like you said, when you schedule this, you got to let us know, because he's a farmer.
Yeah.
He didn't tell by the videos. That's what he does. He does his weavings and stuff like that, and then he farms. He's got fields that have been handed down for hundreds of years up on the mesas where he lives. So he's kind of late for him. I forgot about that too. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock to him. He's probably in bed by 9. He was just sitting down to have a supper. So we can just plan it ahead. We'll get him on together.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. I mean, you've got the goods in terms of the information there that we need, just to enlighten people on this wonderful people, the Hopis. And we often refer to the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Incas, mostly the Mayans for, American indigenous wisdom. But the North American Indians had incredible wisdom. It's just that they were more systematically, dealt with, therefore silenced, therefore we don't get to hear that wisdom. But fortunately now with the internet we are getting glimpses of Apache wisdom and Hopi wisdom. So hopefully, Ronald, we can have a resource, as yourself, as a resource to help people to grow their knowledge on this wonderful tribe. I was
going to explain to you that now the Hopis and the Mayans are connected. Oh, totally. In fact, if you go to my blog, there's a picture of a Mayan figure on those petroglyphs that are thousands upon thousands of years old right there. And on those same, if you go to my blog and look at my pictures, you'll also see a Hopi tree of life. And you'll see aliens around the bottom of the tree of life dancing around with their hands holding. It's right there on my blog. Now, what happened after years and years and years, the elder lady, because the women have all the power in the Hopi thing, and they had me go take pictures of all this stuff, and I was shocked. And years later, when I started writing my blog, they're posted on my blog, and there you'll see the Hopi tree of life. And the Mayans and the Hopis, now the Hopis know all about the Mayans. And even the major cities like Chichen Itza and all that, that's in Hopi prophecies. The Red City to the south. So they're totally connected, and there are Hopi petroglyphs all over the Mayans' homeland that are far older than the Mayans. Just amazing. The more you study about the Hopi...
incredible. So I gathered from the video that they are pretty much the same bloodline.
They are. And, I went searching for the connection. I thought I was going to be all...
Are you there?
...and everything, Well, hell, there's all kinds of people doing that. There's even Hopis chasing that connection. Because, you see the petroglyphs that are on my blog from and you got to remember, Old Arrivie's Jerusalem... And there it is right there. And there's a figure there with a big old earring in the side of his head, and it's right there on my blog. Yeah, the Hopi, they did not know what those petroglyphs meant. And Lonnie Cutanuma, a good friend of mine, who's featured his kachinas on my blog there, his mom is the one that said, she asked me one day, could you tell us what the petroglyphs mean? And I said, if I went up there and sat down for a couple of days and just thought about it and waited for the gods to talk to me, I could probably tell you. She says, well, the heck with that. Go take some pictures. That's how I got the pictures. Those photos have never been recorded before. I might have been the first white guy to ever see those petroglyphs. And that's the story of the world right there in those petroglyphs. The few pictures I posted, I got a lot more than that, but you can see the creation story right there.
Ronald, I wonder whether you're aware of the Australian researcher called Stephen Strong. He's exposed that in the Hunter Valley, just north of Sydney, I've been there, there are Egyptian hieroglyphs, and he goes through the whole petroglyphs. You can see clearly Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia, and pretty much the same story, the story of life, the story of...
Right. I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah. That YouTube knows what I'm interested in. That stuff comes to me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, they know too much.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you'd be aware of Steve.
Yeah, I saw those. They keep popping up every now and then again. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's the same story, Santos. And like the Aranthia has in it, everything was a solid block of land at one time. I kind of believe that.
Absolutely, yeah. Pangea, when the Earth was much, much smaller, and as she's expanded, you have this tearing away of the what they call the continental plates, but it's really just, it's just the Earth expanding, and she will forever grow.
Yeah, and Cliff High explained that best. I heard one night when he said, just take something and start spinning it. What will happen? It will start expanding. I forgot how fast the Earth spins, but it's real fast.
Very fast. Very fast.
I heard it, and I couldn't believe how fast it was spinning.
Yeah, well, it increases in speed. It never slows down.
It even increases, huh?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. If you study the works of geniuses like Walter Russell and that kind of scientist, they know, they are aware that the orbs speed up in their rotation and slow down in their revolutions or orbits, so that they maintain centrifugal and centripetal forces, so that they don't fly off on a tangent. This is how it works. This is why we have rotations and orbits, because they have to stay with their primary by these two actions, these two dynamics. So, yes, as it increases in its rotation, it will grow in size. And so, no doubt that the Indians had this wisdom. The Hopis were great astronomers. They were absolutely great astronomers. They had the Pleiades, and it's even more amazing. The Hopi knew what the black hole was, and they called it the planet that sucks. Just how simple, huh? Yeah.
But said, and the Kivas. Take this to an extreme here. The Kivas. Now, how did the Hopis know where north, south, east, west was? You know what I'm saying? But the Kivas are built north, south, east, west, and there's a square in the roof. It's square, and the reason it's square, number one, it lets the smoke out from the fire. But that's how they would tell all the seasons and everything. I think that when Orion's belt went due east and west across the window, it would pass right over the top of the Kiva, I think I'm pretty sure that was it, but that would be their winter solstice.
Right.
And so whatever passed through that little window, they weren't watching television night, they're sitting looking through that window.
Oh, yeah, look, if you spend any time watching the stars, it's much better than anything you can see on television.
Yeah, and that's what they were doing. They were waiting for not all of them, but the shamans and stuff like that, We're doing that, and that was their job, And the Native Americans, if something bad happened to the tribe, well, they'd kill the shaman. Well, they wouldn't kill him; he'd have to commit suicide.
Yeah.
But he was on guard. And in fact, on what's it kind of interesting about that? When the whites first came to Old Arriby, it's kind of interesting. The chief should have committed suicide. He should have jumped off the cliff, like other chiefs before him had done. when something bad happened to the tribe. Well, he didn't jump, and the rest is history. Kind of interesting if the Hopis are so connected to the universe, like I believe they are. And when I say Hopi, I'm talking thousands of years back. I'm not talking about today Hopi. I'm talking about the lifetime of the Hopi. Because the Hopi of today aren't the Hopi of even 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, even 20 years ago. Sad to say. But the chief would have committed suicide, would have had to jump off the cliff. Now, the cliffs are right there, and I was taken there. And in fact, that's where babies are taken after, when a Hopi baby is born, like an old Oribe. They do not let the baby see for 21 days. And the 21st morning, isn't that interesting, Santos? There's that number.
Yeah, it is. Very interesting. Great number. Welcome back, friends. We are having a great conversation here about the Hopi Indians. Ronald, we do have a caller now. Would you like to take some calls? Are you happy?
Oh, yeah. I don't mind at all.
Yeah. All righty. We're going to Steve. Steve, are you there?
Yeah, man. I'm here, man. How you doing, bro?
Good, thank you. I hope I didn't just catch you listening there in the background and without a question caught you by surprise.
Well, you know, my only internet's this Android phone, and I was trying to download an Android Flash player, you know, so I could listen to American Freedom Radio, but it's kind of hard to get one done. It seems like I keep losing my connection.
Yeah.
Oh, the Hopi Indians, though, yeah, the Earth's been destroyed how many times?
3 times. We're living in the fourth world.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the Hopis,
I'm ready for that.
The Hopis believe we had to live in the other 3 worlds to live in the fourth world. I'm writing in my blog weekly. I put at the end, I'm taking stuff out of the Tibetan Book of the Dead because it's so Hopish, and the connection there with them and the Tibetans.
Well,
so, yeah, they have the same thing. Yeah, you had to die. Well, you had to die to come back, to die to come back, to die to come back. Now, but they're not sure if this is going to be the end of everything this time through.
Oh, cool. We're going to get into a golden age then, right?
You know, I don't know if the Hopi know.
Oh. Well, I know there's a lot going on, man, and it's all positive, you know. I mean,
well, everything the Hopi had 11 predictions, and one day I was up at Old Oribe, and talking to a young kid, we were both leaning up against the kiva, and he goes, you know, all of our predictions have come true. And I go, yeah, I know, that's why you guys are so popular now. Is that all the things that were supposed to happen and now have happened. So that's supposed to be the end of times. The Hopis don't have a calendar. They never did. They didn't need a calendar. They were above a calendar. They were way over anything a calendar. They didn't want to write nothing down because all their stuff was passed on through their dances. And if you go to a Hopi Kachina dance, which you cannot record, you will not record it. They'll take your camera. I don't care how good your camera equipment. They'll destroy it in front of you. And the dances.
What's the thing about the spider web? Don't they have something about spider web?
You have Spider Woman, but Spider Woman created mankind, but God created Spider Woman. Well, Spider Woman's a DNA spiral. That's simple.
Cool.
Yeah, they had to use their own words to describe these incredible things like a DNA spiral. So you had Spider Woman, and Spider Woman wove her web, and her web was mankind. So that's what that is.
I was thinking maybe it was like the internet, like a spider in space.
No, they did have chemtrails. Now you can either call them chemtrails or you can call them power lines. But they said the Hopis had that there would be spider webs in the sky.
I saw a bunch of spider web, chemtrail, fake man-made clouds today in the sky.
Yeah, they're everywhere now. And this, I think 1992, or maybe Santos knows more than me, 92 or 98 Santos when it started. I can't remember. So yeah, they had
Which ones?
The Hopis had
the chemtrails.
They had Hitler. They had the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb to the Hopis was the gourd of ashes. If you take a gourd when it's dried out and cut the end of it off and dump it upside down, black stuff comes out of it. And the gourd is a light color. And there it is, your gourd of ashes. They had it. The swastika is Hopi. The swastika is the Hopi migration trails.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, technically we're all Hopi.
Well, that gives us hope, doesn't it?
Pardon the
Oddly enough, Hopi doesn't mean hope, but kind of funny how that worked out. Hoping on the Hopi, huh?
That's cool. Hey, a long time ago in 1978, I went to Church of God in Christ, and I did the Holy Shout and Dance, like the Spirit comes in you when you're...
Oh, yeah. I've been to a couple of those meetings. I've gotten drugged to with ex-wives.
Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, my body, I was just praising God. And these people were just Spirit-filled, and I was praising God. And at that time, I used to fast a lot, and I had some out-of-body experiences. I felt like angels came to visit me and touched my body, and I had a dream where I was going down a hallway. I was looking at these rooms, and each room was filled up with light, Any idea what that might be?
No. Who knows when you go on the other side?
Yeah, right. Hey, I was going to say I'll get off the phone in just a second, but I was at the New Life Expo at the Broward County Convention Center Sunday. Man, they had so much cool stuff there, man. It was just amazing.
You're in Florida, then?
Yeah, in Florida. There was a lady named GailThackray.com. She's an angel, man. I was at the door. She was going to do a seminar, but I had a 5:30 dinner event with Captain Fogel, the South Florida Explorers Club. This lady, man, I tell you, she's a medium, and she just she said, "Well, come back at 5. I have a free session then, but I had to go." But
yeah, I think the only medium is Santos.
With Santos,
because this stuff is based on the stars, and I'm saying the reason I became friends with Santos, I would listen to Santos talk, it reminded me so much of the Hopis.
Yeah. Well, my favorite videos from Santos are the Holy Land Part 1 and Part 2 and the Elixir of Life. Those are my favorites, Santos.
Oh. So I think Santos is right. It's just, if you just look at the stars, it's there for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's right on. I mean, it's the Zodiac. It's in Job 38, 31, and 32, the Pleiades and Orion, loose the band.
Yeah, and that's all Hopi, too.
Oh, cool.
It's all Hopi, too. The aliens are Hopi, too. Mudman, the first people, are Hopi. Well, the Mayans had Mudman, and the Hopis had Mudhead, same thing. I went to a dance with the Kima on Kotsamovi, little village, and all the Kachina dancers, if you can imagine, they're all, if you've ever seen pictures of them, paintings of them, how they're all dressed up, they're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And they all had a bunch of guys dressed as mud in the middle, and they couldn't talk, and they just gawked and stuff like that. But the Kachina dancers stayed around them and kept going around them. And I asked Akeem, I says, well, what is it? Okay, tell me what this all means now. And what it was the Mudhead was the God's first creation on Earth, and they were protecting them. Interesting. And so the Mayans have the same story. And just like the Mayans, the mud people were destroyed, and they were destroyed. All of them were killed. Didn't work. Here the Kachin, here's the Hopis acting out thousands upon thousands. You don't need to write this stuff down, Here they are dancing around. They're doing it right. There it is right in front of you. There's where you started. You started as Mudman. I hope you're telling you right there that the aliens, the Kachinas, and the Kachinas represent the aliens, whatever you want to call them, God, the aliens, whatever, and there they are, and they created Mudman because they already created everything else on Earth, and they started with Mudman.
And as far as the aliens, they were created by the source or the...
Yeah, exactly. Like Spider-Woman, you know what I mean? It's just the DNA strand, you know. So they were, everybody, you know, there's no line, everybody has a boss, you know. So, but the Hopis have, it's interesting what the Hopi called the god at the end, and he's the head of all ceremonies. Interesting the way they use the description. Head of all ceremonies. It really strikes, it says a lot there.
Right.
So, incredible.
Yeah, and like the Hopis, you have local gods. You have Muska. He was a local god here on Earth. So just how it works out. You know, you do well, you can have your own Earth somewhere. Have your own people.
Which stars do they venerate the most, Ronald?
Huh?
Which star system do they venerate the most? Orion,
they have like your like you talk about so much. Sirius B, is that it? Am I saying it? The Morning Star? No, that's Venus, isn't it? You know, Santos.
Yeah, Sirius A and Sirius B system.
Yeah, they have that.
Mm.
They had that, and the because they'd have to have the same everybody else had.
Exactly.
So it was like the Dogon tribe was the Sirius B, and that NASA mission STS-75, the tether incident, when that happened, it was passing right over the Dogon tribe.
Yeah. Wasn't that interesting? If we can believe what we're told, that's the whole problem. That's the whole problem. If we can, you know, no matter what I don't watch TV, but that doesn't mean I don't get bullshitted.
Yeah, well, that tether incident was right from the camera from the space shuttle.
Yeah, I know, but still, who gave us the information? That's the problem.
You know, I always wonder why they let that still play on YouTube.
Yeah, see, like Santos talks about this a lot, and that's another reason I agree with Santos, because they're letting this stuff out for a reason. You know, it's goes so involved. And I hope he knew this was going to happen now. And I hope he's predicted all the wise people end up back up on the Hopi reservation. And you can't believe how many people contact me now since I do Hopi videos that want me and put in contact with Santos, and that I run into people I'll be talking to or whatever I'm doing. I'm an electrical estimator. I run into people all the time want to know when they know my Hopi connection. They all have a drawing to go up there. We just had a kid arrive all the way from Washington, D.C., took a bus 51 hours to meet Akima. Watched a couple of Akima's videos, asked him why he did it. Said, man, I can't help myself. I was drawn. Korean-American. Dad worked for the government. Didn't know what his dad did for the government. Interesting, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I told him that he told me, send me an email, says, hey, I got people I need to talk to in Hootville. And I go, who do you know in Hootville? And he goes, nobody. I said, well, don't show up. So we arranged for him to meet Akima. And he met Akima for 3 hours, got back on the frickin' bus after a couple of days, and went home and thought his world had changed. Interesting. And I get all kinds of stuff from people. People that just got back from Tibet had me hook them up with Akima because they saw my videos, just got back from Tibet, and they go, wow, these people are just alike. And if you hear if you watch some old Tibetan stuff, and you know the Hopis like I know the Hopis, they even giggle the same. I think I told Santos this in an email or something one day about that. You heard them talk, they giggle the same, they're built the same. Hell, the Dalai Lama visited Hootville. And the Hopis call them their brothers on the other side of the earth.
Oh, cool. Hey, when they're doing the dance, do they say "ya"? Do they say that word?
You would have to go to a dance and hear the music. And I tell you what, they got the best rhythms in the universe because they're so damned old. And their rhythms are unique.
I might have to get up there sometime because I'm a Pisces. I came out feet first, man. I came out walking and dancing. I love to dance, brother.
Yeah, and the voices they make and stuff like that are all nothing like you ever heard before. They have their own unique sound and they have their own incredible rhythms. Much better than the African. They're more complicated. But then again, the Hopi were the first people.
Where do they come from? Where do they acknowledge their...
They came from the Grand Canyon.
No, I mean, from which star system? I mean, the Mayans tell you
Well,
that they came
here's
from Maya.
what's interesting. I don't know, and they may, Santos, but now you got to remember that the Hopis have the Hopi emergence story. I don't know if I sent it to you. Akima tells it pretty good. But the Hopi emerged from inside the Grand Canyon, and you were talking about the Egyptian hieroglyphs or petroglyphs in Australia there. We were talking about Santos. Well, they found the same thing in the Grand Canyon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. The Egyptians were in the Grand Canyon, but the Smithsonian's not going to tell us that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then the Hopis emerged from inside the earth because the Hopis lived inside the earth. And what gets really neat is that the Hopis, if you listen to the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, that they're telling you that you came from inside the earth in the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Because it's identical to how the Hopis emerged from inside the earth. Because the Hopis emerged from inside the earth through a hollow reed, which could have been a beanstalk. And when they got to the surface, there was a giant. And guess what the Hopi story has? There was a giant. And there was music that played constantly. Well, that was the wind and the rain and the snow and all that. They didn't hear any of that underneath in the earth. It's identical. It's identical. And here it is. The Hopis have this. It's called the Hopi emergence story. And if you go to my videos, there again, I recorded a Zuni one, a Hopi one, and a Navajo one. They're all the same kind of because they are all Hopi. You know, all the Native American stories, no matter where you go, were originally a Hopi story. They just put a little twist on it, and they called themselves. And what it was is the Hopis made their migrations. They're supposed to. What would happen is that you would. Am I carrying on too much here, Santos?
No. Absolutely wonderful. Keep going.
Well, here's what they would do was. Let's say Santos and we were the elders of the village, and young couple just got married, and Santos would go up to them and go, "You're leaving, dude." And you go, "What do you mean I'm leaving?" What do you mean? Well, you won't go far. You're going to go like 100 miles out there, and you can have your children there, and you'll establish a new village, and in a couple of generations, you'll have to tell your great-great-grandkids, right? Well, you're leaving, and that's how they migrated, right? So what would happen was some of them got so far away from the old Arrivi in that they quit moving. They became the Cheyenne. They became the Sioux. They became the Seminoles. They became the Eskimos. They became all the tribes in Central America and South America.
Yeah, you know, as far as all those different tribes, they weren't the savages. The white man was savage.
You bet.
Absolutely. Guys, hang on. We've come to another break. Wonderful. And when we get back, how about we talk a little bit about their prophecies? What do they have in store for us in the future as the Mayans tell us that we are being born under the fourth or the fifth sun? So, friends, don't bother working on Maggie's farm, the plantation, folks, because that's all it is. It's a big plantation, and it's just there for the benefit of a few greedy, very, very viciously greedy, capitalistic thugs. So, folks, self-determination is about getting off that there old farm of Maggie's. Anyway, guys, we were talking about the Hopis and the prophecies. I'd love to know what positive and upbuilding prophecies they have, because if they're related to the Mayans, of course, the Mayans spoke about being born under a new sun, an ethereal sun. What do the Hopis have along that line?
That'll happen, but a lot of bad things are going to happen before we get there. And you got to tear things down to build them up. And I'm going to tell you, pretty much all the Hopis have this. I'm going to save everybody a lot of years real quick. What happens is, whatever clan you have, every clan has its own stories. And all the clan stories are close. But if I went to a clan on Old Arribi, where I started on Old Arribi with those, I was lucky I got started at the head. But and they told me a story, and I go tell it to Kima, or I go tell it to somebody in another village. They would go, they got it all wrong, because they would have the same story told a different way. But to the elders on Hoop Villa, where Akima's stuff is coming from, because Akima's stuff is coming from the elders on Hoot Villa, and Hoot Villa is like Old Oribe. There's a part of a Hoot Villa that the traditionalists live. There's no running water. There's no electricity. There's nothing. If you walked into the village, you could have walked in the village 200 years ago. It would look the same. A little plaza, everything the same. So you have that in Old Oribe. Now, they believe there's going to be a giant war, and this giant war is going to happen in North America. And if you think about it, a lot of signs kind of maybe point that way. So the Americans' karma will get them. And it's kind of sad because most Americans don't know what their tax dollars really did. But the American lifestyle there will be revenge against the lifestyle of the Americans. And the good people that haven't been living, like me, there's a handful of us that are all going to head up to the Hopi reservation, and they know that. And the Hopis are preparing for that. They've been forever. So that's why there's so few of them. There's less than 6,000 up there. If you can have this great influx of people, you're going to need places to put them, water and stuff like that. So they're predicting that there will be this influx of certain whites that will be drawn, like it was sounding like the 24-year-old kid from Washington, D.C., hopping on a bus and blah, blah, blah. And because certain people are just drawn. And whenever you go up to the Hopi reservation with other white people, first thing you always say is, why are you here? And they'll all tell you, man, I don't know why I'm here. It's just driven. And so you have the same thing. So they have a giant war, and all this stuff's going to happen in North America. But the Hopis have never been bothered. Like I was telling you earlier, the Hopis were never messed with. So, and what the Hopis believe that they are the safe spot to be. Now, geologically, and there's so much coal and stuff under the Hopis. There's so much water under the Hopis. There's a lake. There's an ancient seabed buried under the ground, whatever you want to call it. Oh God, I can't think of the name, but there's enough water in there for millions of years. The Hopis were put where they were for a reason. And if you stood up and put your hand over your chest and thought of North and South America, and you put your hand over your chest, you would be on the Hopi reservation. It's just amazing. So that they think that's what's going to happen. There ain't no. And then you'll have the new world, but then there'll only be a handful of people, and it's almost like the Georgia Guidestones in some respects. It's interesting.
Oh, hey guys, while you're mentioning the Georgia Guidestones, I saw a little video the other day someone posted. Interesting that it was in 1980, on March the 22nd, that those stones were placed there. And in a couple of weeks, it will be the 33rd year of the anniversary of those stones, 33, on March the 22nd, the first day that the sun enters Aries. It's only a couple of days away. So, be very interesting, won't it?
Yeah, what was it, R.C. Christian was the guy's name, supposedly? They had the stones built.
Yeah, well, that date is very significant anyway because it corresponds to the skull and bones, the number 3.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not up on all that. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, 322.
Oh, yeah, I knew about that. Yeah, for sure. Oh, now I get it. Oh, okay. March 22nd then. So that's what that comes from. Interesting. I just learned something.
Well, yeah, the fact is that it's so interesting because it's the skull and bones number, and it's also the 33rd year, which is a Freemasonic number that is coming up right now. And we know that they're aware of all this. I mean, the date is just, it stands out. March the 22nd is a very significant date. It's the first day of Aries, the real true first day of the year. And there's a lot of significance in all these, things. So, anyway, I just thought that would be interesting to...
Yeah, for them, for sure.
Yeah, have we still got Steve there?
Oh, I thought we were going to break, so... No, I think it's just
looks like we lost Steve, or he's gone back to just listening, so I'll just unmute him there. And he's probably in the background listening. Yeah, wonderful, Ronald. I'm just blown away by all this. And so their prophecies are very similar then to the Mayans in that
Yeah, because they were the same people. It's kind of interesting that you were talking about the Mayans, but the Mayans have the sun disappearing for 3 days.
Yes.
And I've written a lot about the Mayans myself. They have the sun disappearing for 3 days, and what's kind of interesting, I don't know if it ties in with what you said, but when the sun comes back, they don't know if it's going to be the same sun. Now you take the story, and here you go, right down your alley, you take the story of Jesus Christ, and he died for 3 days.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Huh? Right. And the Mayans had that too. And so when Jesus came back, was that Jesus? And the Mayans have the same exact story. Now I don't know if the Hopis have that story, but so much is getting lost so quick. That's why I've been doing what I've been doing. I'm just trying to record this stuff as much as I can in case something happens. And I had an Apache guy. Mean old Apache, and Apaches are just mean. They're still mean. And he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I says, "The God's making sure I've got money and time, and I'm recording as much of this stuff as I can." And he goes, "Well, why are you doing that?" And I go, "Well, maybe they think it's the end." Well, he got real quiet. So I've been out with my camera. You can tell from my videos, man, I've been around all these different places trying to record this stuff, and maybe because maybe something's going to come down. I'm getting this down for the gods.
Now, one of our favorite verses, scriptures, is Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. But all 6 of those verses, they're kind of like, when the S-U-N of righteousness will rise with healing in his wings, and will leap like calves out of the stall. And the hearts of the fathers will be turned to the children, and the children's hearts turned to the fathers. Maybe that's got something to do with that Malachi chapter 4. Oh, Malachi chapter 4, chapter 4, the whole thing. What do you think, Santos?
Yeah, that sounds like a similar prophecy. They're all the same. They're all saying the same thing. They're all based on the stars. This is what is so frustrating with churches, is that they can't see it, and yet they put themselves on the pedestals and call themselves pastors and ministers, and they can't interpret or decipher their own scriptures, but they will be exactly the same as what the Hopis are saying, and the Mayans. And
Santos, Stephanie wants to say hi, we'll just say hi. She's born on March 21st.
Hi, Santos. I just want to say hello.
Hey, Stephanie.
How is everything? I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, much better, thanks. I did explain at the start of the show that I had about 10 days ago got Teflon poisoning from the non-stick pans. Now I don't eat a lot of cooked food. I'm mostly raw foodist, but I got really sick. I got flu symptoms.
I told Stephanie to throw her Teflon pans away because I use an iron pot and stainless steel is all I use.
He did tell me that. I'm sorry to hear that happened to you. I hope you're recovering.
Throw those pots away, Stephanie.
I hope you're recovering okay. That's awful. That's just awful.
Yeah, it is. It is awful, and I'm putting the warning out there because, as I do, anything that I uncover to be harmful, but this one slipped my attention. Now, the reason is probably because I got laxical, realizing that I'm vegan and mostly raw foodist. I haven't worried about the very little cooked food that I do eat. So it really grabbed me. It really hurt me. But I'm back on my feet. I'm getting stronger and stronger every day. And I'll be back to normal weight within weeks because I didn't realize I was poisoning myself. So, I'm good. But
well, that's great. Good to hear. Good to hear you realize it just in time.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Hey, Santos, that isogenic stuff I told you about, I got energy coming out of my body all over the place, and it's changing the frequency of the vibration of my body. Great stuff.
Can you give that a plug again on the air for people and where they can get it and what's it all about?
Well, they can get it from me, man. I'm a distributor. It's isogenics. They've been around 10 years. It's minerals, vitamins, ionic minerals, vitamins. It's got diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, and the cleanses. So what it does, I've lost 20 pounds. I gained some weight. I lost 20 pounds. And it gets rid of the visceral fat first. That's the fat around your organs. I had my blood test at the VA. Everything is perfect, man. My blood pressure is down. I had a high white blood cell count. I was fighting an infection. That's normal. I had my good cholesterol was low. My bad was high. That's normal. My liver and kidneys were already all good. My thyroid's good. This stuff has, rejuvenated me. Isogenics.com. They've been around 10 years. They have 24 scientists. And the stuff, man, is just amazing. It stops the oxidative process in your body. And they've got a product B that they use for telomeres. That's a tongue twister. Telomeres, because those get shorter as we age. But this stops the oxidative process, stops the aging process.
A fountain of youth, huh?
A fountain of youth, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'll have to talk to you about getting some over here for me.
If anybody wants to know, Sign Guy from Heaven on Skype, that's me.
Okay, Sign Guy from Heaven on Skype. And what was your website again?
I don't have a website, man. I just the website was Isogenics, ISAGENIX.com.
Yeah, wonderful.
Get back to the Hopis.
Yeah, back to the Hopis, and be instilled with hope. But question I have for you, Ronald, is, now you said that all the other tribes are related to the Hopis. Now, the Hopis are good, peace-loving people. You mentioned that the Apaches have a cruel streak in them. Why would that be, if they're related?
Well, you know what it was, is that the nomadic tribes are like that in North America. And they lived off of the other tribes. For an example, here in Arizona, we have about, I'd say 20 different tribes. And the aliens, the gods, or however you want to say it, they all got farming at the same time. They all got corn, they got squash, they got beans. It was like government issued, almost. Get my point, Yeah. So all of a sudden, the Native Americans' diet got messed up, and it really got messed up when the Europeans come, because they would have never had to kill any of them. They could have killed them with their diets, which they're still doing. But all of a sudden, the Native Americans were gatherers, and they were, all the tribes are nomadic. They had to be, especially in the desert. And they were vegetarian. If they ate meat, it's because something died in front of them, or they might have caught a rabbit or something every now and then. But they were vegetarian gatherers. In fact, in the Hopi First World, it's interesting, Santos, that's the Hopi First World and the Navajo First World. Of course, these are all Hopi stories. But in the First World, the Hopis were vegetarians. And that's how the First World ended, because the Hopi lived with the animals, because the animals had no fear of the animals. The animals had no fear of the Hopi, and the Hopi had no fear of the animals because they weren't eating the animals.
So, now over to you, Ronald. We were talking about the diet of the Hopis. Very interesting. So they were originally vegetarian.
Yeah, they were vegetarians, and what happened was the gods gave them their prayers to stay with their... If you were ever up to the Hopi reservation, you would go, how does anything grow? The place is a beach. In fact, the place is just sand. That's all it is. It's just sand. And my Akima's videos just shows you him planting in the sand. He explains to you why stuff grows. But anyway, and the Hopis were in the First World. They were vegetarians. They were the first people, of course. And God was fresh in their mind because they just was created, right? And so... as time went down the road, you see it right now. The Hopi became decadent, and right now society's decadent. That's why there's going to be an end to this. Everybody's getting a little uppity, so things are going to get snuffed out. And the same thing happened to the Hopi. So what happened was they quit saying their prayers and they quit planting their crops. And winter came, and winter's very harsh in the Hopi reservation. Not a lot of snow, but extremely cold, and the wind always blows, and it snows sideways up there. they started killing the animals. And the local, I'm sure it was a local god, Muska, the god of this earth, now the universe, who was the head of all ceremonies, the local god, he killed them all because they stopped doing what they were taught to do. And that was the end of the first world. And what happens is now there were some Hopis that were living the good life, and the ant people would have taken those people and put them inside the earth, where all the people on the surface, all the other Hopis were destroyed on the surface of the earth. And the Hopis have this happening 3 other times, where everybody was killed except for the good people, and the ant people put the good people inside the earth, but only after Muska demanded it. Interesting. You got to tell that, and the ant people are the grays. And if you think of a gray and you think about an ant and you think about the Hopi and what the Hopi had to compare the grays to, it would have been an ant. And they were hard workers. Huh? Perfect. Big eyes, skinny waist, hard workers, strong. And the ant people take the good people and they put them inside, and then, they, like I said, the surface was destroyed. Whenever it was cool to come back out, they brought them back out. So that's how you get the Hopi fourth world, because their world's been destroyed 3 other times. Interesting.
Wow. And so
the Hopis are just incredible. I mean, it is just, I could go on for days and hours. I've been interviewed on several shows, so it's kind of why. Just interesting people. And I got to learn from all the different, well, not all of them, but a lot of the different clans. I know the stories told different ways. So it's kind of interesting how they have that. And then the rest of it, So there's your proof. In the beginning, everyone was vegetarians. They were gatherers.
Oh, look, I find that in every tradition, from Egyptian accounts, from Babylonian accounts, Roman, Grecian, from all over the world, that we first ate vegetables, and that was the food that humans ate, herbs, seeds, and the like. And then there was a falling. You always hear about this falling away.
Yeah, because everybody's living in sin, according to the Hopi.
Yeah.
Hey, that goes right along with Santos, Isaiah chapter 1, verses 11 through 16.
And if you look at speaking of the Bible, if you look at Genesis 29, what does it tell you? You were a shepherd over the animals, and here's are the berries and the fruits for you. Blah, blah, that's right there, Genesis 29. The Genesis is, everybody has a Genesis story. The Mayans got the Genesis story. The Hopis got the Genesis story. Everybody's got that story. And it's interesting that in Genesis, the beginning of the Bible, it's kind of laying out, once it was just all water. Well, the Hopi have that story. Everybody's got that. I'm sure Santos knows far more about all the other cults or religions. Everybody knows that. But they all had that in the beginning, and so there it was. And
the name
and you live all in sin.
Yeah, well, the name Genesis means Spider Woman, doesn't it? The genes of Isis. You just explained that it's the DNA.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And in the Hopi Genesis story, you had Spider Woman.
Everything starts with Spider Woman. Everything begins with Genesis, the genes, the DNA of Isis.
There you go.
Yeah. So it really always goes back to the same theme, the same story of the ways or the habits of light. I like to say the science of light. I call it syncretism, the science of light, or the language of light. But really it's the habits of light. Some people like to say the laws of light. But it's the habits, it's the ways. God has ways. He doesn't have laws. He doesn't have commandments. He has habits and ways, the Creator, light. And I guess these stories are just all recounting how light performs things and gets things done.
Yep, and they all kind of, everybody coming back. Like the Buddha.
All coming back to the same high level of consciousness that we left thousands of years ago. It's coming back.
Have you ever read the Mayan Popol Vuh at all, Santos?
No.
You talk about incredible work. You talk about a book about the aliens. Well, you know how the Mayans got their names. The Mayans were the Quiche people, and when the gods arrived from the Pleiades, they searched the earth over looking for people that were still living the same way as when they left them. They searched the world over, and here they found the Quishi people, and the Quishi people were still vegetarians, and they were still doing their psychedelic. I don't know if you call them psychedelics, mushrooms and all that, you know. And they were still, and the priests and all that were still going to the mountains and doing their magic herbs and doing their rituals, just kind of like a Hopi story. And then the gods came back and they changed the name from the Quishi people to the Mayans, because the Mayas one star of the seven sisters, only spelled a little different, M-A-I-A, I think. But that's how they got their name. They were named after one of the seven sisters of the Pleiades. So there it is right there. And before they tell you that, they tell you how they created man first time around and second time around and third time. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, you know. We're definitely, who knows, you know, I guess really heavy now.
Well, that corresponds with the multiple creation accounts in the Bible, too. When I say multiple, we know that there are two in the first two books of Genesis.
Yeah, I don't know the Bible that well, so that's why I like your stuff too.
Absolutely,
the Bible the right way, like a history book.
Yeah, because you have God, that's at Genesis 2:4, I think, and then you have the Lord God who comes and does the Garden of Eden, but the God up to then had already created everything, male and female and everything, and then you got this other Lord God that comes in.
Yeah, but
exactly.
mankind gets wiped out every now and then. If mankind didn't get wiped out now and then, we know how the pyramids were built. We know how Machu Picchu was built, because that would still be in our history. We get totally wiped out off the face of the earth every so often, and everybody has a Nibiru story. The Hopis have a Nibiru story. The Mayans have a Nibiru story. It's called the turtle, and the turtle moves slowly through the sky. But when the turtle arrives, it's havoc, and life is reborn. Well, there you go, destruction of the earth. And on the turtle's back, it opens up four square. So every now and then we just get wiped out.
Yeah,
you can't get around that.
No, you can't. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
There's no escaping that. Everybody think what you may think, but no more than a species of animals living on the earth. Every now and then we get wiped out. And if you always survive with those, you ever notice that, like Santos? So, and that's the same thing as the ant people and all that. The few survivors, because God didn't spend this much energy to have it all wiped out.
Exactly. There's always a core.
There you go. There's always a seed.
Higher ascended ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't. You know, I compare it to having a garden. If you have a garden and you know something's going to happen, well, you're going to save your good seeds.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And just let the rest of them get wiped out, and that's what happens. The good people get saved. They ain't getting around that. I call it, you know, I'm not a Christian by any means, but still, you got to be good. And like the Buddhists say, you got to, the things you do today are affecting your karma in your next life.
Yeah.
Well, we need to start singing that James Brown song. Whoa, I feel good.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Ronald. Time to conclude now. We've only got 1 minute, less than a minute, and I just want to use the time to really say thank you for coming on, because we weren't even sure whether we were going to have a show today, because Dean Clifford was supposed to come on, but sorry, listeners that were looking forward to Dean Clifford. We might have him next week, but there was a double booking problem with Dean. But nonetheless, thank you kindly, Ronald. Appreciate you sharing with us today.
Okay, you're welcome. And I got nothing to sell.